Now, my voice still sounds weird because C19 really messed me up, but there's not much I can do about it, and I hope we can get through it together. Get through it together? Okay, so this video right here is not something that I normally do. And so after you watched it, why don't you give me feedback on what you thought about the episode? And if you want to see more like this in the future, whenever I do end up selling something, because it's not like I'm selling stuff every day, not even every month, and not even every year. I have a hard time letting go of stuff, especially stuff that I like. Why did I buy the Mininova? Well, after looking through the feature list of the Mininova and the size of it, I thought it was a perfect fit because it's tiny and it packs so many features. And I'm not kidding you, it's got 18 notes of polyphony, 3 oscillators with digital waveforms and wavetables. When you're sitting there scrolling through wavetables, you're actually scrolling through 50 plus different types of waveforms. It's got a noise generator and 2 ring modulators. It's got 2 filters per patch and a huge set of filters to choose from. You have 20 modulation slots with over 60 destinations, and you can even modulate the modulation sources themselves. You've got 6 envelope generators, 3 LFOs, and then on top of that, you can add 5 effects per patch, and you have a huge range of different types of effects to choose from, like compressor, distortion, phaser, chorus, delay, reverb, and EQ. On top of all of that, you also have a 12-band vocoder. And listen to this, it also has something called vocal tuning. It's kind of like auto-tune. Now, if this wasn't enough, then it also has an arpeggiator where you can actually edit all of the arp steps in real time. And it also has a chord memory function that can store chords with up to 10 notes in them. The Mininova can store 384 presets. It comes packed with 256 really good sounding factory presets. When it comes to connections, you've got the DIN 5 MIDI in and out, you got an input for an expression foot switch, it's got a USB port, you got an XLR input for a microphone, and the thing even comes with a gooseneck microphone so that you can use it with a vocoder in there. It's got 37 mini keys. Now this might be something that might annoy some people out there, especially people who like full-sized keys. Now, the top feature that made me really want the synth was its sound. Okay, number one, the sound of the thing. It really reminds me of the Yamaha AN1X, and I've owned that thing several times and I've sold it several times because of really bad life decisions. And that's all I'm gonna say about it. But the sound of the Mininova is it's just something I really love. Number 2. The animate buttons. I have made videos in where I'm using these animation buttons before, and in essence, these are just macro buttons. So you tie a bunch of functions to these buttons, and then you can play around with them live and instantly change a sound of a patch. I sometimes created patches where one button press would make the patch sound completely different. So it felt like having 8 presets with a press of a button. It was insane. And then you can combine them. It's a great live performance tool. the Mininova offers so incredibly much. It sounds absolutely great and works perfectly as a live performance synth, and there's almost nothing you can't do with it. So why would I sell it? What changed? Well, there is something you need to know about the Mininova. It is brutal when it comes to menu diving. Absolutely, unforgivingly brutal. It won't feel that brutal if you're a complete beginner because you're learning the synth as you explore it, right? But for anyone who do not consider themselves a novice synth sound designer, you will tire really quickly. There are so many steps to go through to get stuff done inside here, so many menus to flip through, and if you want a Mininova yourself, then I strongly advise you to get the official Mininova editor from Novation. It will make your life so much easier. However, you might discover like I did that the official editor is, well, it's only available for desktop and laptop systems. If you're a mobile music producer like myself, you still have the problem of no Mininova editor available for iOS. And the brutal menu diving got to me so hard that I ended up making my own editor inside MIDI Designer Pro. I put so much time into it and I made a video about it. I don't know what to say. It just took me a huge amount of time to make it. But it was well worth it. Or was it? You see, to iOS-based people who owns a Mininova, it turns out that, well, it was a really welcome thing that I did. But for me, I never used it much. But why? Why did I stop using it after I finally had a good editing tool? Well, the answer is kind of ridiculous. Listen up. The synth is too big. And if you're choking on your coffee, tea, or whatever else, hearing me say that, hold on for just a second and let me explain. Yeah, I know. To a lot of synth nerds, the Mininova is already kind of toy-sized. The synth is not that big, but have a look at this. These are some of my most favorite hardware gear. Now, I've done my best trying to size all of them to scale, and as you can see, my most favorite gear have an even smaller footprint than the Mininova. And this is the #1 reason why the synth ended up being stored in a corner for 2 years without me ever touching it again until I sold it. The Mininova takes up too much of my limited desk space. And on top of that, I just cannot fit the Mininova in my most favorite Fallout featured travel bags. It is really that simple. It is too big. Now, having this synth collecting dust in a corner really made me depressed. It was right here in this corner. There's no synth there because I sold it, but it was right there along with my failed sound dampener thing. If you want to see a video on how I failed making a sound dampener because I'm an idiot, then I'll link to that video in the pinned comment down there. Please don't go watch it. I'm so ashamed. This is how you build a really bad sound absorber. Either way, the synth was standing right there collecting dust and it made me feel like shit. I mean, I love the sound of the Mininova, and it really does offer a kick-ass amount of synthesis and live performance features. It deserved a better fate than to collect dust in a corner, and so I decided to sell it. But it took me 2 years. It took me 2 years to decide to do that. So what am I using instead? How am I replacing it? To tell you the truth, software-wise, I've actually already replaced the Mininova a long time ago. When I wanted something digital with wavetables and stuff, I simply chose to use Waldorf Nave. Yeah, I know, it's old and it does not support AUV3, but it's so incredibly good. And I've made sounds with it that sounds both like the Mininova and the Yamaha AN1X together. Like, it sounds like both of those synthesizers. Plus it's got that Waldorf sound all over it too. And another thing is that ever since me and Kai Aras made Agonizer synth, I haven't really been needing any other synth for bass. Agonizer is the ultimate bass synth for me because we designed it that way, basically. And there are even more options on iOS for anyone that wants a synth that can do it all, just like the Mininova. And so if you're looking for synths like that, then look no further than Tone Booster's Flow Tones or Synthmaster 2. And soon we'll have BUTTERSYNTH also, if it's not already out by the time you're watching this. There are just so many options when it comes to iOS synths, and I haven't felt like I've been missing out too much. However, I do kind of miss the animate buttons, but then again I could just make my own animate buttons array with KB1 by Kaiaras. I mean, those animate buttons basically are just macro buttons anyway. But that's software-wise. Hardware-wise, well, I have kind of replaced my most favorite hardware synth already with another hardware synth, but they sound nothing alike. You see, my new most favorite hardware synth is the UNO-Synth Pro. This thing sounds massive. It sounds amazing. I just love the sound so much. It sounds nothing like the Mininova at all, so don't even begin to compare them. They're completely different sound. But when it comes to a hardware synth, I have a few of them. This is my most favorite one. Look at the footprint of this thing. It's so tiny. It's easy to power, it's portable, you can power it with a USB battery. It's got the full-sized MIDI connectors and stuff like that. It's got USB MIDI. Yeah, I love this synthesizer so much. It's a great companion to have on the road. And it doesn't take up much space on my desk either. So I no longer need the Mininova. Doesn't mean that I don't like it. I still love it. And, you know, if I had space for it, and if I did have use for it, because that's important, then I would keep it. But I didn't, so I sold it. You see, many years ago, I did a documentary about a guy called Max Sokoleski, and he has a modular studio. And when interviewing him, he told me about, well, just check this out.
That's a huge part of the meditation. Now I'm planning, and maybe I should get rid of one of the courses. It's not getting used, then it shouldn't be here. Because if it's not getting used, it takes energy to have it here, and it's distracting. And distractions is counterproductive.
And you know, that is good advice. If you have something in your studio that is taking up energy from you, something that you're not using, then get rid of it, because it's an energy thief. Don't allow it to take up more of your precious energy. You want to put all of that energy into your music, into the creative side of yourself. And you don't want to be bogged down with feelings of guilt for not using something, especially if it's something expensive. Well, there you go. Now, like I said in the beginning of this video, I need feedback. Did you like this video, and do you want to see more like it in the future? If I do end up selling something else, I kind of enjoyed talking about this, but that's just me. Now, if you like the work I do here on the channel, why don't you give me a thumbs up? And if you don't, give me a thumbs down. But if you do that, then you're a poopy poop head. If you want to support me in any other ways, then commenting down below and sharing the videos is a good way of doing it. And if you want to support me in a financial way, check out my music first, full list of links down below. And if you don't want to do that, I've got Patreon and PayPal. And if you don't want to do any of it, that's fine too. As usual, I wish you a very productive week. Now go finger all of your stuff and have a lot of fun doing it.